Welcome to season 2 of the Happy Sensory Corner podcast. At Mendability, we want to help everyone, especially when they're vulnerable, to feel happy, more comfortable in their own skin, more confident, proud of themselves, so that they can be their true selves and we can all journey together through life more happily. Our contribution is to work on brain health. As our brains grow stronger, healthier, all of us benefit, but especially those among us who struggle to sleep or who are overwhelmed by the barrage of information from the environment or who struggle with their bodies or are crippled with anxiety. And so we developed a gentle, family centered program of whole brain games that boosts brain development and activates the brain's self healing mechanisms. It's based on the neuroscience field of environmental enrichment, and we call it sensory enrichment. And so we're experts in boosting brain development, but there is so much more that parents have to navigate. For example, we're not experts in what I'm going to call the gifts of neurodiversity. And I think this is going to be one of our most interesting, captivating episodes because it goes into areas that I know nothing about. Our guest today is Vandana, and she's a certified medical Reiki master teacher. She's a certified healer, a certified hypnotist. Vandana's healing workshops focus on empowering empaths and highly sensitive individuals to embrace their gifts, which is going to be really interesting as we discuss neurodiverse individuals and to help those highly sensitive individuals to heal deeply through things like Reiki, sound healing, guided meditation. With your son's experience, Vandana, it's clear your personal journey intertwines with your professional one. And so, like I said, I'm excited about today's episode because I don't know a whole lot about what you do, and I'm really looking forward to learning from you.
Great,
Thank you
you're the
for.
perfect client then. I'd love to educate people. So let's dive in. And I've always been a teacher. So even when I was little and when I would play house with the neighborhood kids, I always played the role of a teacher. I had the blackboard, the chalk, the erasers. I was like, class, let's listen up, attention, please. So no, I mean, it's just something that comes naturally. It's probably somewhere in my DNA from an ancestor. But yeah, I'm really happy and honored to be on your show today and to talk about how autism and neurodiversity really are interrelated with each other and how this holistic ancient healing modality has the most calming and comforting effect. And it's completely natural, and anyone can learn it, anyone can practice it, and it can even be offered at a distance. If you have a client or a student who really needs healing, deep healing on a cellular level, even, mind, body, spirit, everything is connected, and you can't get to them in person, then just with your intention, with your positive intention, with your open heart, and with your strong desire to get to the root of the issue, you can even send distant Reiki. It's called absentee or remote Reiki to anyone or anything, to anyone or anything in the past, present, or in the future,
Wow.
any
That's,
situation. So it's pretty flexible, and it really knows no bounds. It's limitless, how much healing
mm,
can happen. And it's very subtle, especially for people who are on the spectrum, including my son, who is now 33 years old. I know that when I pull out the massage table and, it's such a treat for him because it really, on so many levels. I mean, the muscular tension and, the overwhelm, the anxiety, sleepless nights, it's really great for sleep too, if you're sleep deprived or your mind is racing, which is another trait of, people on the spectrum, usually, not always. So Reiki really touches all of these bases and checks off all of these boxes.
that's fascinating. I
It
love the
really
fact
is.
that, yeah, I love the fact that you can work from a distance because our client, the families I work with, are around the world, and I am like we are today in a Zoom conference, and so I understand how you work. I have no idea. You need to tell us a lot about what you do.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Well, first of all, I mean, Reiki is pronounced, so it's Reiki, like Ray dash Key. And it's a Japanese kanji word for universal life force energy. The Rei means the universe or universal, and Ki stands for life force energy. So when you put it together, what Reiki does is it transmits universal life force energy. And so it really helps us to reconnect and plug back into source, into our higher self and our higher power. Um, and also it helps to awaken and activate our natural body's healing response. It does so
Mhm.
much. I mean, I could talk forever about Reiki. It helps to regulate the nervous system. It helps uh, with the immune system. It helps our body to really remember how to heal itself by really reconnecting and plugging back into our natural state of mind body well-being. So it
Mhm.
really like if our energy is blocked or our chakras are collapsed, and that means chakras are just energy centers, and we have seven in the body. And lots of times with people on the spectrum, there's a lot of energetic imbalance. There's like a cutoff. So the energy is stuck in different places in the brain and in the body. So this helps to open up and like kind of uh, like stimulate the energy flows. So it really helps to expand our energy field. Um,
Mhm.
and the great thing about Reiki is, especially for people on the spectrum, or any neurodiverse person, um, it can also be offered where the hands, we have certain hand positions when we give just like a massage. If you were to go to a massage therapist or a spa or a healing center, you would lay down on a table, but in this case, you're fully clothed, or you could sit in a chair if you have some physical limitations and you can't lay down. And the practitioner, me in this case, would just gently kind of like gently and slowly approach your field and then hold my hands out, connect to uh, whatever visualization, like I guide people through a little relaxation journey, like an induction before I begin. And then I can slowly approach them. And if they're a little nervous or if they have never had a Reiki session, or maybe um, they're more like ADHD and they have too much energy and it's hard for them to sit still, then I'll shorten the session. I'll adjust it based on what the person needs. But the Reiki, the hand positions, it's like a therapeutic touch. So it feels very warm and very soothing. Um, just like, the touch of you can like use the archetype of divine mother, or that mothering, that nurturing, comforting touch when maybe a child has a fever, you're touching their forehead, you're holding their hand. All of these forms of touch, these sensory experiences, we don't experience often enough, especially if we're not in a relationship, we don't have a partner, or maybe our kids are grown, maybe we don't have any kids, maybe we just have a dog or a cat. I mean, just the form of touch itself is so healing, right? So for somebody who is skeptical or maybe is not familiar with Reiki, I would just like kind of hover my hands over the different parts of their body, starting usually either at the feet to ground them or at the head. And then I would slowly just kind of run my hands down their energy channels, their
Mhm.
columns of energy, right? But then I would land usually because it's all intuitive. So my hands would just land very gently on a particular spot that I sense is an issue or
Mhm.
is the root of the problem. So maybe their heart chakra, if they're really shut down emotionally,
Mhm.
or maybe I would place my hand over their, it's called solar plexus, which is the center of our vitality. Also, our second chakra, which is the center of
Vandana,
our, yes,
you've used the word chakra 3 or 4 times already. I
yes,
think a lot of people know, but can you
yeah,
give me the chakra 101? You said we have
yes.
seven.
Yeah, starting at the root and going to the crown, or you could start at the crown and go down. So it's either bottom up or top down. And each one has a Sanskrit
So
name. I
what
won't
is
go
a
into that.
a chakra?
It's basically a disk of light or an energy, a wheel of light. It's basically our energy centers. So it's at the center of uh, each part of our body, basically. And it also will guide us in different ways. So for example, the root is at our, like it's our, the bottom of us, that's the closest to the earth. And so if our root chakra is open and expanded, where we have more vitality, more energy, more of a sense of safety in the world, we're able to be more present and we're connected to the earth. That color
What
is
is
red,
what does that mean, open and expanded? Like, what do you see? You talk about energy wheels. What's an
right?
open? What what
So
do
they
you
could either
feel
be
when you see it
open.
open? Yeah.
Yeah, well, what I can see is when somebody's chakras are, I mean, generally they're open and they open and close on their own based on, mental fears or whatever the person might be thinking or feeling. And they're always subject to change, so they're pliable, just like the brain is plastic, right? And these are just subtle energy bodies. So it's not like a physical part of us, but it represents that part of the body. And for example, the first chakra is about safety. The second is about creativity. We're going all the way up. So, if you want, I can guide you on a little journey right now, and you can rub your hands together to warm them up so it feels nice and toasty when you
Okay. All right. Let's do
basically
this. Hang
you can
on.
give yourself Reiki, and that's the idea. I mean, a 5-year-old child can become attuned to Reiki. So if you rub your hands together, warm them
Mm-hmm.
up for a few minutes, and then when you feel that they're warm to the touch, you can just place your hands starting at the first chakra. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the Muladhara chakra in Sanskrit.
So where am I going?
So you're going right at the top of your legs.
Top of my legs. Okay.
And you can also you can place one hand right in the center of your legs and the other toward the back. So basically at your tailbone, your coccyx bone. And
Yeah.
this is your root foundation chakra. And you just want to breathe in that red light, like I was talking before, kind of like we know that there are different, um, like with
So
autism, it's a
picture a
spectrum.
red light, and
Yeah,
then
just imagine and envision with your inner eye. You can close your eyes if you feel more comfortable, or you can look down and gaze down at your feet. Make sure that your feet are on the floor and that your legs are not crossed. So you want to keep your energy channels, your energy circuitry open, right? And then just breathe in. Imagine that that ruby red ray is filling up your feet, your legs, and moving all the way up your lower bodies, then your middle, then your upper bodies, all the way up to the top of your head. And just keep breathing in that refreshing, vital red light, which is like an earthy kind of, it's a safe color. It's almost like you have a safety net that's wrapping around you. So what I'm describing here is kind of like a dialogue that I would engage my clients or students in so they can familiarize themselves with energy, with their own feelings, which sometimes get really shut down, where we don't even feel like we have a body, right? Because we're always in our head, which means we're cut off from the rest of our energy flows. And then if you want, we can go up to the next chakra. I don't know how much time we have here, but you would just want
well,
to,
I'm, you're talking about safety. You're talking about a lot of things, a lot of issues, a lot of concerns
yes,
that parents have with their children
Yes,
with on the
right.
spectrum, and I feel like I want to go there. Um, how long are we going to? But I also want to understand this thing about chakras, and it says
Yes.
chakras or chakras.
This was really originated or created in India, in ancient India. That's really where it came from. And then it spread to Japan and to other parts of the world. But Reiki itself is a Japanese um, healing system. It's a natural holistic system. So what was your question again?
How do you say
Because
How
I
to
chakra?
was I
pronounce, how to
yeah,
say.
chakra,
So
Chakra.
cha.
So there are spinning wheels of light.
Okay.
So each chakra, when you start there and you go up to your lower belly and you just place your hands there, you're almost giving yourself that sense of comfort and safety. And then you're breathing in. I just use you don't need to use color visualizations or color imagery, but I find that it helps people to
Mhm.
stay present in that meditative state. And then the lower belly, the second chakra, is all about our creativity, our sense of safe sexuality, our vitality, our kundalini. That's another topic. I don't want to get too advanced for you guys,
Mhm.
um, but then if you just keep making sure that your hands are warm, because Reiki should feel like a heating pad, very toasty, very soothing, almost like you're basking in the sun. And
Mm.
it should be, also very grounding and very regulating for the nervous system. So it allows the body to awaken the parasympathetic nervous system to rest, relax, digest, and to process and integrate all of the chaos that a lot of people on the spectrum experience on a daily and nightly basis. And then,
Mhm.
of course, if you want to go higher, and that's a golden color. So imagine, sometimes I say to clients, like, imagine there's a golden sun with like 12 healing rays, and it's just spreading with each in and out breath, right? It's spreading throughout our entire body, up and down, and even to the back of each chakra, and so forth. So there are 7 chakras. So if you want, I can tell you more about them. Or we could talk about something else.
Well, my question had to do with, the differences you've observed in the blockages or opennesses or energy patterns in
Yeah.
neurodiverse versus neurotypical, if I can use this way of defining, this
Hmm.
spectrum, these ends of the spectrum.
Yes.
Um, and so if you could go maybe by chakra, I'd say in the root chakra, you've noticed that a lot of the people on the neuro who are neurodivergent experience differently. Do you see patterns of
Hmm.
differences?
Yeah, because when you're constantly in fear, doubt, stress, worry, and anxiety, you're not really fully present to, the joy and to peace and all of these positive sensations in our body. And so I always like to ground people who are always like too much in their heads, too many racing, ruminating thoughts,
Mm.
too much hypervigilance and things like that. Um, and I'll just ground them first at their feet. I'll begin the session and I'll end the session where I'll just touch the soles of their feet very lightly. It's because Reiki is gentle, safe, and non-invasive. So it's never an aggressive, heavy-handed touch. It's always a very light, kind of, yeah, it's a very light, gentle touch.
Mm.
Um, and Reiki can only help, it can never harm. So these just knowing this and hearing this, I'm sure you understand that, it's completely natural and holistic. It's not woo-woo. It's a
Mhm.
natural healing system and tradition that's been around probably, from the beginning of time.
And I will complete that with my I would say dimension where I am, and with, the science of it. When you say it's always been there, I believe it, because what neuroscience has discovered quite a while back, and we have this practice, this protocol in our therapy, which is soft touch. You mentioned soft touch, and we know, as far as the brain is concerned, that thanks to soft touch, the brain is able to release one particular neurotransmitter called serotonin, and
Yes.
that is the messenger of relaxation. So we basically are on the same page as far as
Yes.
Yeah,
helping when
relaxation
it
and
comes.
safety. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I love what you say also about it must always be pleasant and gentle, because it is what we tell our parents also about our therapy. It has to feel good. If it doesn't feel good, you stop. So
Yes.
I feel really in harmony with all what you're saying so
Oh,
far.
that's awesome. Thank you. I'm very happy. Yeah, I definitely resonate with everything that all of your work, and I really appreciate your contribution to everyone on the planet. I'm really like a neuroscience kind of like junkie. I just really love neuroscience
Mm,
and how the nervous system works. The sympathetic versus the parasympathetic nervous system, and it's mostly about how do we self-regulate? How do we calm ourselves down,
mhm,
right? And that is a typical, I think you'll agree, symptom or characteristic of someone, not always, who gets dysregulated easily and really has a hard time calming themselves down. And that's where Reiki comes in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And not just Reiki. Reiki works with any other healing modality. In hospitals, it's practiced in hospitals, like I mentioned before. It's part of it's called CAM, complementary alternative medicine. Um, and it's been around for forever. And I think it's really gotten very popular and well known over the last 20 years or so.
mm.
But yeah, as far as
So,
the nervous system, I think we really need to teach this to educate our children, especially nonverbal, especially depending on where they are on the spectrum, like in schools, in social interactions, respite centers, I think that it really, it's still, believe it or not, a lot of people don't really know that much about Reiki, which is shocking to me, because I thought by now everyone would know. But I'm very grateful that it is practiced in a lot of hospitals and
yeah, I
um,
have a questions about that. A question.
yeah.
What kind of situation do you come in to inside the hospital? Who do you
Mhm.
help?
Well, I basically haven't worked in hospitals yet. I haven't had clients that needed surgery, so I've been basically in outpatient facilities with them,
Mhm,
doctors' offices, recovery rooms, and things like that, but not actually in surgery. But what I do know is when I became a medical Reiki master, um, I was told that it's really not an easy job because sometimes you have to be in surgery all day, like standing on your feet 8 hours. There could be a lot of blood, and I'm a very sensitive empath.
uh,
So for me,
yeah.
I kind of thought, well, maybe that's just perfect. But it's just the idea that before, during, and after, these are the times when most people are nervous, they're worried, they're in desperate
Mm,
fear, or maybe they're having panic attacks um, because they don't know how the surgery is going to go. I mean, it is off-putting for anybody, but especially think about a person who is, neurodiverse
mhm,
and, the overwhelm that they might feel. So that's why it's important to have that person with them, before, during, if possible. If they,
mhm,
not every hospital might allow Reiki, but many do, which is great. And then after that, but because we found in studies that Reiki also helps for people to recover faster,
mm, yeah.
right?
Mhm,
Because without the nerves, without the mental overwhelm and the emotional
Yeah.
overwhelm.
Hmm.
Without all that, then people not only get better faster, but they don't need their medication for as long. But I have worked in hospitals with nurses where I offered Reiki to, doctors, to nurses. There was even a nun that came in and I attuned her to Reiki. Also support circles for
Hmm.
families and also caregivers, because I've had a
Yeah.
lot of caregiver circles. And when I teach Reiki, it's called Reiki for Caregivers, and that's on my website as well.
Mm.
Because, sometimes the caregivers are the ones that are most uh, traumatized, that are
Yeah.
most stressed. And
Yeah.
so it's good to provide Reiki, whether it's a session or whether that's teaching them how to heal themselves, how to give them, how to learn how the hand positions for self Reiki,
Hmm.
whatever that is, the family unit, everyone has to be included. So you're right, because I can't be there every day with whoever it is that needs Reiki. But
Hmm.
if their caregiver, whoever that may be, learns Reiki, then that person can receive, the blessing, the luxury of receiving Reiki every day until they
Yeah.
learn to empower themselves and give themselves Reiki. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, and everybody is different. Literally every body is different. So we don't want to lump all people, whether they're neurotypical or neurodiverse, into one size fits all, right?
Hmm.
Because that would really be a disservice. So, depending where they're at, Reiki will meet whoever the client is, whatever they need. Um, they'll be able to receive the energy medicine they need. And
Yeah, that's
yeah,
again a common trait in our practice that we create therapy plans for every one of the people, even if they are the same age or even in the same family. I have worked with twins, and they had both their own tailored therapy because, yeah, we agree that each person is
yeah,
different. So that's really
yeah,
great.
And and have you noticed that neurodivergent people are more sensitive,
yes,
more intuitive, and some sort
yes.
of progress more quickly through this type of intervention than other people?
I, I think that what you just said is correct. They're also very telepathic, very psychic. But they're also on guard a lot. This is my experience. Again,
Mm.
I can't speak for everyone in the population. I know that when I've worked on my son, that really helps to calm him down. He also gets a lot of headaches and he has a lot of muscular tension. He also doesn't sleep well. It's hard
Mm,
for him to fall asleep and stay asleep. Again, what I was going to say is yes, because the sense of touch is hyper sensitive in many cases. That's when I would just like have the person maybe sit in a chair or maybe even keep their eyes open, because if somebody is very is really stressed and an
Mm.
overwhelm, even closing their eyes, they might not be able to relax, especially because they don't know what to expect. So
mhm,
I just try to put on relaxation music. Maybe I'll play my singing bowl or a little drum, and I find that that really is very helpful. But I will, ask them always permission. Anyone, do I have permission to touch you? And this is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to touch your head just like this. Or I'll just say, can I place my hands around the sides of your head, the left and right sides of your head, which is very brain balancing, right? Or maybe the front of the forehead and the back of the occiput, right? The brainstem, where we have
mhm,
the
Mm.
limbic system and the amygdala, right? And a lot of emotions, a lot of survival fears and things like that. That's our oldest brain, right? Our reptilian brain. So I'll ask them first, like if they maybe are afraid of touch, can I just like put my hands near you, maybe one hand over your heart and the other over your tummy, very, very gently, and then gradually they'll start to deepen and relax their breath. But the sound healing really helps a lot as well. Taking them, walking them through like a guided 5 minute sort of hypnotic induction, if you want to call it that, just like a guided imagery. I find that everyone, whether you're on the spectrum or not, really, this helps them to really open to the experience. It kind of melts their armor or lets their guards like kind of fall away, their guard, right? So they don't feel that they're resistant to the healing. And even if they are initially, slowly over time, maybe you want to give them 5 minutes of Reiki and then next time 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then just build each time you see them. But the goal here is that they can self-regulate, that you can teach, that I or any practitioner can model for them how it's done, right? So they could eventually calm themselves down, right? So my son
Claudie,
has
I'm
learned that.
thinking
Yes,
about smell in the room as a way to, because we use a sense of
absolutely.
smell to de-escalate meltdowns and
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
to give a boost of dopamine, and dopamine is pleasure.
Dopamine hit.
And
Yep.
do you use a sense of smell in your practice?
Absolutely. My son loves lavender. He loves, loves, loves lavender. He can never get enough of it. I have a diffuser that I need to get a new one, but that actually helps him to sleep much better and really calm his nerves, especially because, um, you know, I find that people in the spectrum, they need preparation. You can't just spring like a sudden
Yeah.
doctor's appointment or something. I need to, this is something I've learned like 25 years ago. Basically, like, this is what's coming up. This is what you're going to expect. And the same in a Reiki session, we're going to start at this time, we're going to finish at this time. And you're going to tell me if anything is coming up for you. You'll let me know if you're comfortable or if you need to change your position. So there has to be that very, um, like clear communication so the person always feels safe. But yes, aromatherapy, I used to be a Young Living distributor for many, many years. And then there's doTERRA. There's a lot of great brands out there. Yeah, essential
Have you
oils to
tried
have them diffuse is very important. Yeah, that
have you
helps.
tried things like chocolate or vanilla in your sessions?
After I usually will have offer that as like a little treat, but I've been in
No, I'm talking
Reiki
about the
healing
smell.
circles.
Sorry, the smell of
Oh, the
chocolate.
smell. Okay, because I was
Yes.
going to say in several healing circles, we would have that as like a little treat after, to kind of come back, because that's like, of course, it releases those endorphins. I have not tried chocolate essential oil. No,
Because I
that
mean,
sounds
I know Young
amazing.
Living Oil and doTERRA, they're very big on preserving the natural
Yes.
origin of the fragrance because I think they also use the chemical properties of the compound. But we're just
Mhm.
interested in giving that brain a boost of dopamine, and that can come through enjoying the
Yes.
smell. And unfortunately, Young Living and doTERRA oils don't always smell super great, you know. And
No,
so
yeah, not all of them
lavender is a
do.
lucky one. It both you can keep it, you preserve its properties and still have a nice smell. I think the citrus ones are nice too, but when you buy that
Yes.
very expensive collection of oils, there's like two of
Yes.
them that will smell nice and give that dopamine rush. The rest,
Right.
I don't know. We don't do aromatherapy. We do, I think,
Right.
what do we call it? Olfactotherapy, Claudie, if we want to
The
give it a
Yes.
name.
olfactory system. Yeah.
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 Um,
Olfactory enrichment. So
So a
that's why I was
little
thinking,
tip. Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe I was gonna finish Kim's sentence. I don't know. We shall see. But because we want this moment of pleasure, and we know that
yes.
a lot of kids love the scent of strawberry, for example. We are using food flavoring because
Yes.
it's safe. And when you bring something that smells really lovely, and I experienced that recently with a tiny baby, the first thing is they put their little tongue out, so to taste it.
Oh,
But food flavoring is very safe, where you don't want to put your tongue on essential oil sometimes.
Well,
Really
nothing
not.
is as safe as what, God made.
Yeah.
But when
Yes.
we look at some people sometimes complain about headaches when you do essential oils diffusing. I don't know if it's the
Yes.
carrier or something, but sometimes some people are sensitive. But we've never had any
Yes.
complaints but when using the it's
That's-
candy flavoring. They call it
I
candy
want to
flavoring
try
oils.
myself. That sounds
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't my my diffuser here, it's I'm gonna put it in front of the screen. It's motion, sensitive, so when I move around it, it agitates or shakes very quickly. It atomizes, it's an atomizer. And the food
Mm.
flavoring oils don't work well with the atomizer. I have to find some other way
Mm.
of diffusing, unfortunately. I'm very disappointed in that.
That's a
So I just
great
wanted to let
idea.
you know, if you're going to try the oils, they're not actually oils. It's not in the same way as essential oils are oils.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think whatever works, and you're right, a lot of people, a lot of my clients do have sensitivities or allergies. So I always ask, and I always like put a little drop on my left hand, which they say is like the receiving hand. The right hand is like the giving hand. So I ask them to just massage, like kind of like move it around, swish it around, and then together, and then just inhale and cup it over the nose and
Mm,
mouth and see how they react, or just to sniff a little bit from the bottle,
Yeah.
and if they
Mhm.
like it, then I'll, I'll use it during the
Yeah.
session. But
Yeah.
if
I
they
love this
don't like
idea
it,
of
then no.
controlling the smell and making it your own by rubbing it and then cupping your hands. That's
Yeah,
maybe
because
something we need to introduce in our sessions rather than
Yeah.
because a lot of the parents will just take the oil and sort of shove it in the kid's face and say, "Smell that," and then they're surprised that the kid will like, "Whoa, whoa, what are you doing?" I mean, even me as a
oh, that sounds very
mature, safe
aggressive.
adult, yeah, it just
Mm,
feels very
yeah,
aggressive. But this idea of
yeah,
putting it in your hand and say, "Okay, now rub it in," and then
yeah,
smell your hands because then it stays
yes,
with them for like I don't know, an
yeah.
hour or so,
And they're in charge. They feel safe
and
and
they're
in
in
control of
charge.
the
Yeah,
situation. Right. Exactly. Yeah. But
yeah.
when I use it on a client, I'll do the same that I just sort of demonstrated. I just learned that when I was a distributor for Young Living, that technique. And then I'll just probably start like at the base of the neck, the top of the spine. And I'll just kind of like go there and maybe on the third, like here in the middle of the forehead. And I'll just, so it's like, so they can get a sense of that aroma.
Mm.
And so they're breathing it in during the whole session. And that already has a scientifically proven relaxation effect on the nervous system. So
Mhm.
between that, the hands-on healing, the gentle touch, and
And I
just that.
imagine the soft voice too. You must, sort of
Yes.
because you were
Yes.
a hypnot, a master hypnotist or a certified. I mean, you do hypnosis, so you understand this
Yes.
idea of how the voice has an
Yes.
impact on the mood and everything.
Yeah,
So the whole
absolutely.
experience has a multi-sensory, energetic. Um,
Yeah.
it sounds very nice. It makes me salivate
Yes.
almost.
I mean, it can be miraculous. I mean, sometimes recovery or healing can happen very quickly, but the one good thing is it can never hurt or harm anyone.
Yeah.
It only can help.
Hmm.
And, and even if the person is resistant to receiving it, or, maybe they're religious or superstitious, or they just don't trust anything that new they haven't
Mm.
tried because they don't know, they haven't experienced it themselves. A worst case scenario, the Reiki will just return to you, the practitioner. It can never hurt them, right? And
Hmm.
we're not
Yeah.
like shoving anything on them. We're not forcing anything. If they repel it by not being open and they shut down, then it'll go wherever it's meant to go,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
Do
Because
you
Reiki is an intelligence. It's an intelligent light. It's an intelligent energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's from the universe. So the universe always knows what's best, even when we don't.
Mm-hmm.
I like that thought. I'm
Yeah.
interested in if you have a story where you could tell that a neurodivergent individual you were working with was being particularly perceptive, particularly sensitive, particularly intuitive, and something sort of extraordinary happened. Do you have a story like that? I'd
Mm.
love to make that sort of.
Yeah,
our
there are
peak for this episode.
exactly. I've had many peaks, many experiences when I have taught Reiki in energy healing circles to families. Especially these were like neurodivergent teens who were picked on, teased, bullied, you name it, and they lost confidence and they had like zero self-esteem. They stopped trusting their intuition. So after several sessions, we would meet at a healing center, and I would have the adults volunteer, like the parents, to lay down on a massage table. And I would just kind of oversee this process. And I would just encourage the teens or the young teens to just place their hands wherever they were guided to. And this is helping to activate their natural sense of
Hmm.
knowing, their intuition,
Mm,
their clairsentience, which is their feeling body. And they would always find the block. They would always find the pain point, right? Like
mhm.
immediately. And just to watch the joy on their faces and the elation. And I'm getting the chills just telling you the story because I remember one particular teen, he was probably about 14. And we were sitting in the circle, healing circle, before we actually, before I invited everyone to work on each other in pairs.
Hmm.
And I remember the mother was complaining, and he was sitting right next to his mom, right? And she was like, "Oh, like he's, this is a problem, that's a problem, and all of these things." And he was sitting right there, and I just thought it was almost like he was invisible,
Mm,
and I felt, and I had to correct her and say, well, actually, it's not a disability, it's a super ability. Right?
mm,
Because they also say that neurodiverse children that become adults, they're also known as indigos, which you probably have heard that term. Indigos, crystals, diamonds, rainbow children, they're actually born in a higher dimensional frequency where they have a lot more wisdom than we do. And they could see through, BS, right? They could they could recognize the truth when someone's lying
yeah.
and when someone's really being authentic and truthful. So anyway, I told her like, and I told her about my son and how as soon as I let go of my judgments and my control, because it was a battle of wills, it was a battle of control for many years. And it still happens now and then. It happened just yesterday, actually,
Uh,
between us, where he kind of lost his temper and had like a little meltdown, but only lasted a few minutes, but still it was very difficult and hurtful for me because of the things that were said that,
mm,
you know, and I understand it like he didn't mean it. But anyway, getting back to this situation with the family circle for caregivers, yeah, the more practice, the more they would keep coming back. They got more and more excited, these kids, because they wanted to they wanted to experience what it felt like to actually help somebody else, and not feel like a victim anymore. So it was very empowering.
mm.
I wish I
So
could
what
still
happened
have
with
that
that?
circle now. Well, event it was in most of our clients were in another state, and they would actually travel to New York. And little by little, I mean, it lasted maybe about 6 months, which is pretty good, but it was
Mm,
a very long trip for them. And eventually they felt like they had the tools and they learned Reiki themselves. Their kids were attuned to it and they had the tools that they didn't have so much of a desperate need to call on
mm,
somebody else. And that's what I'm all about when I work with people. I don't want to create any codependent relationships where I'm the expert and they are
mhm.
powerless, right?
Yeah.
I want to always give back people their power, right? No
Mhm,
matter how old they are, because that's the problem that people on the spectrum are so misunderstood.
mhm.
And so that was the most rewarding thing for me when I worked with these families.
So, um, if one of our parents who have a child on the spectrum or has a child with a difficulty, they need help and they are far from you, they go onto your website. How does it work?
Yes. Yeah, they can find me on my website, which is vandanalightshealing.com. And I offer 15-minute discovery sessions to give them clarity to explain about Reiki, what it does, how it can help, how it can heal. And they can jump on a Zoom call with me. They can call me. We can
Mm-hmm.
do a WhatsApp call or a Skype call. And then I would basically explain how it works. And, we could set up a session on Zoom if they live in another state or country.
Mm-hmm.
I could attune them to the Reiki symbols if they're already a Reiki practitioner. If they've taken at least Reiki level 1, then I can attune them. There are 4 healing symbols, and each healing symbol will help in a different way for
Mm-hmm.
grounding, for expansion, for revitalization. And then I can also offer them a distant healing session as well, where we set up a time, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
they need to just lay down, decompress, dim the lights, get their
Mm-hmm.
chocolate or vanilla oil or whatever, whatever they want. Maybe take a bath to relax their muscles and or just kind of lay down, listen to relaxation music, and I'll work on whatever it is that I feel intuitively that I'm guided to.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have the opportunity to ask me for healing requests, like what it is that they need. So I'll make sure to focus and stay present on that body part or that
Mm-hmm.
emotional issue that they're experiencing,
I,
whether it's,
yeah, I
yeah,
can
whatever it
imagine
is.
it must be very draining for you to be able to
No, no,
channel all this.
it should not be draining because that means you're not doing it right. If you feel sick or drained or you absorb and internalize what the person on the table is
Yeah.
struggling with, then that means you're not surrendering.
Mm.
You're not allowing yourself to be the channel of this universal life force energy, this light, right?
Mm-hmm.
This resource, this wisdom, this guidance. You are getting in your own way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is that you're just a vessel, you're an open vessel, you're a channel, you're a medium for, whatever solutions are available.
Mm.
So
I
that
see.
that's a great point that you just brought up. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I always tell my students, like if you feel worse than before and you feel exhausted or drained, then you're not allowing the Reiki to flow through you, that
Mm-hmm.
energy. It should not only flow through your hands, but from the top of your head, it should flow and kind of saturate and spread all through you because you are that life force energy. So you are holding that light and that space, that safe, sacred space
Mm-hmm.
for your client, right? So the energy is flowing through your heart, through your hands, through your whole body. So you're actually becoming the energy of Reiki, the spirit or the consciousness of Reiki, which is
Wow.
pure love.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Mm.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. I mean, our audience, I think you've been on a fun journey and in the to the universe and back. I hope you have a blessed week, everybody. Thank you for attending, and see you next week.
Bye.
You.